Hello and welcome to DD India. I'm Akshay Dongre and you are watching our special program Voice of the Global South, a show that brings to you stories, news, achievements and concerns of a rising aspirational world. So let us begin with today's episode. In a bid to transform India's islands in the Indian Ocean region, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has inaugurated and laid foundation stones of projects worth over $138 million on Wednesday in Lakshadweep, an archipelago of 36 atolls and coral reefs off the coast of the state of Kerala in the Lakshadweep Sea. The projects included a submarine optical cable fiber which would increase internet speed in the island by 100 times, a solar-powered project, desalination plant and much more.
The 3rd of January 2024 proved to be a red-letter day for the people of Lakshadweep. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the 36 atoll archipelago off the coast of South Indian state of Kerala. He inaugurated and also laid the foundation stones of projects. These included the Kochi-Lakshadweep submarine optical fiber cable, which will bump up the internet speed in the island by over 100 times.
साल 2020 में आपको मैंने गारंटी दी थी कि 1000 दिन में आपको तेज इंटरनेट की सुविधा पहुंच जाएगी। आज कोच्चि लक्षद्वीप सबमरीन ऑप्टिकल फाइबर प्रोजेक्ट का लोकार्पण हो गया है। अब लक्षद्वीप में भी 100 गुना अधिक स्पीड से इंटरनेट चल पाएगा।
India has taken major strides in developing its telecom infrastructure and network in the last 10 years. In 2023 alone, India became the world's second largest 5G network. The feat was achieved in just 10 months of 5G rollout. India had the fastest 5G rollout globally. India's median mobile speed jumped 10 spots globally in January 2023. Median mobile speeds went from 79th to 69th place. India also positioned itself as a global leader in 6G technology. Prime Minister Modi unveiled the Bharat 6G vision. Industry players like Nokia and Ericsson are establishing 6G labs in India. Telecom operators have been allowed to use renewable energy under the open access route. The Defence Ministry introduced progressive right-of-way rules. In defence land and its states, law was amended to allow telecom licensees to set up temporary telegraph infrastructure. The amended law facilitates rapid repair and network connectivity. The other key projects unveiled or initiated during the same event included a low-temperature thermal desalination plant at Kadmat, functional household tap connection in all households of Agatti and Minikoi Islands, a solar power plant at Kavarati, among others. Addressing the gathering on the occasion, the Prime Minister further said that his government made the connectivity and development of the remote areas of the country a top priority.
बीते 10 वर्षों में हमारी सरकार ने जो बॉर्डर के इलाके हैं, जो समंदर के आखिरी छोर के इलाके हैं, वहां हमने उन्हें अपनी प्राथमिकता बनाया है। भारत के हर क्षेत्र, हर नागरिक का जीवन आसान बनाना।
The Prime Minister also mentioned how the government's efforts are dedicated towards developing the tourism and fisheries potential of the Lakshadweep Islands, apart from improving the education and employment of the youth.
And Bangladesh is gearing up for its national elections on January 7th. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is seeking a 5th term and the 4th consecutive one, while BNP, the main opposition party, has boycotted the elections, demanding an interim caretaker government, a claim that Hasina has already denied. Hasina previously won a 3rd term as the Prime Minister in 2018 elections with a landslide victory, taking 287 of the 298 parliamentarian seats.
Streets in Bangladesh are witnessing violent protests by the opposition, while their leaders evading crackdowns for creating chaos in the country, while police say they have arrested only those responsible for violence.
Almost 300 fictitious cases. They're totally false, and they're totally concocted cases that has been filed against our party workers and leaders, and 25,000 of our party leaders and workers, starting from our Secretary General down to the grassroots level, have been taken into custody.
Incumbent Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina refused to cede power to a caretaker government to run the polls, which led to the main opposition party, Bangladesh Nationalist Party BNP, boycotting the general election. The opposition leadership is itself in disarray. Ailing party president Khalida Zia keeps out of active politics, although her son has temporarily taken the mantle, but he is in exile. The party's next most senior leader, Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir, has been in jail since October 29th. On the streets, voters say they want a fair poll, but more importantly, they want economic stability.
If they can put a leash on the rising prices of daily necessities, then I don't mind, even if this government remain seated in power for eternity. I don't think any future government can match what they have done so far, development-wise, in the country.
The COVID-19 pandemic hit the country's already fragile economy and left hundreds of thousands of Bengali migrant workers stranded at home due to closed border. The International Monetary Fund cleared the first review of the country's $4.7 billion bailout. Still, Bangladesh struggles to pay for costly energy imports due to shrinking dollar reserves and a weakening taka currency. In her past 15 years in power, Hasina has been credited with turning around the economy and massive garments industry, also winning international praise for harboring Rohingya Muslims fleeing persecution in neighboring Myanmar.
A terror attack in Iran killed nearly 100 people during a commemoration ceremony of Iran's former top commander, Qasem Soleimani, who was killed by a US drone strike in 2020. The twin blast took place near Martyr Cemetery, where Soleimani is buried. The attack has escalated already high tensions in the Middle East as Iran blamed Israel for the attack. However, Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attacks.
Two massive blasts spread chaos and panic on the streets of Kerman, a city in the southeastern part of Iran, as the terrorist attack killed over 100 people and injured over 150 during a ceremony on Wednesday to commemorate top commander Qasem Soleimani, who was killed by a US drone strike in 2020. According to Iranian state television, the second blast was reported nearly 20 minutes after the first one, near the tomb of the slain Iranian commander who was killed exactly 4 years back. Later, the same day, at a ceremony marking the 4th anniversary of Soleimani's assassination in the capital Tehran, people waved Iranian flags, held high a portrait of the late general, and chanted anti-American slogans. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi delivered a speech sending out a clear warning to the attackers.
Don't doubt it. You will pay the price for this crime. These crimes that you have committed, you will deeply regret.
Meanwhile, the US has come out in the defense of Israel, stating that it has seen no indication that Israel was behind the two explosions. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said,
"We have no indication at this time at all that Israel was involved in any way whatsoever. I would just tell you that we have no indication that Israel was in any way involved in this."
However, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres strongly condemned on Wednesday the bombing of the ceremony.
The Secretary General strongly condemns the attack today on a memorial ceremony in Kerman City in the Islamic Republic of Iran, which reportedly killed more than 100 people and injured many more. The Secretary General calls for those responsible to be held accountable.
Soleimani, the 62-year-old general, was Tehran's most prominent military commander, and as head of the Quds Force, the foreign arm of the Revolutionary Guards, was the architect of Iran's spreading influence in the Middle East. He was blamed by Washington for masterminding attacks by Iran-aligned militias on US forces in the region. The twin blasts which are one of the worst such attacks in Iran, has come at a time when tensions are at an all-time high in the Middle East due to the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict and in the absence of a ceasefire. Such terror attacks are now directly threatening the stability of the region.
We'll take a small break here and be back with more Global South stories on the other side. Keep watching.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India and this is Voice of the Global South. Let's move on to our next story. And another conflict is brewing in Africa with the agreement between landlocked Ethiopia and Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland for the usage of Red Sea port of Berbera. What they thought would be starting point of cooperation has paved the way for a new conflict in the Global South, with Somalia outrightly rejecting the agreement and threatening regional stability, though following mediation efforts led by Djibouti, Somalia and Somaliland have agreed to resume talks aimed at resolving their disputes.
No one has the power to give away a piece of Somalia. Our grandfather refused, our forefathers refused, and our mothers refused. We ourselves refused to give our land, and it is not possible. Somalia people will never accept it.
Somaliland has not gained widespread international recognition despite declaring autonomy from Somalia in 1991. Somalia says the land is part of its territory.
Ethiopia's step is an offensive that endangered the stability and peace of the region, which was already wobbling with problems. It is a violation and an open invasion of Somalia's sovereignty, freedom and unity of the Federal Republic of Somalia. The so-called Memorandum of Understanding and Agreement of Cooperation is null and void.
The memorandum between Ethiopia and Somaliland paves the way for allowing Ethiopia to have commercial marine operations in the region by giving it access to a leased military base on the Red Sea. Somaliland would receive a stake in state-owned Ethiopian airlines.
We are very happy and we thank the Ethiopian Prime Minister as we signed the agreement here. We allow them 12.4 miles of our sea and they will also recognize us as an independent state. They will become the first state to recognize Somaliland after the signing of this MOU.
Abiy's stated ambitions to secure access to the Red Sea is a source of tension between Ethiopia and its neighbors and has raised concern for a fresh conflict in the Horn of Africa.
This will be the starting point of our cooperation with the brotherly people of Somaliland to grow and develop together in cooperation and to ensure our common security. As we have repeatedly stated previously, we do not wish to use force on anyone. Rather, we will use what we have cooperatively. This is the good news we bring to the people of Ethiopia, Somaliland, and all the peace and development-loving people on this first day of the new year.
DD India's Leon Sisinyong reports from Kampala.
The decision is indeed a very critical one in terms of governance within Somalia, main or the government itself. But firstly, in the statement issued just today, following a cabinet meeting, the Somali government has recalled its ambassador to Ethiopia, Abdullahi Muhammad Wafa, for what they have described as intense consultations in regard to that memorandum of understanding signed between Ethiopia and Somaliland. That memorandum of understanding gives Ethiopia access to Port Barbera and, of course, 12 mile of the coastline therein, and a few other details from that particular memorandum of understanding. The Somali government, however, says that action is null and void and as such a breach of the sovereignty or territorial integrity of Somalia. The Somalia government says it's committed to safeguarding its sovereignty and, of course, has expressed intolerance to any encroachment on its land. But also it has called on to the UN Security Council and the African Union to look into the actions of Ethiopia and call on to Ethiopia to adhere to international law.
And global warming and climate change continue to take a toll disproportionately on the nations of the global south as global warming phenomena like El Nino and La Nina wreak havoc in the nations. In Peru, over 65,000 people are impacted as torrential rains have submerged cities and has turned streets into rivers, with no respite in near future for the Latin American nation.
We couldn't bring anything that was left in homes. There were a lot of things. For example, a neighbor lost their TV, along their things. They could not get their beds out.
Dozens of families have been left homeless after their homes were flooded following heavy rains in Peru's northeastern region of Loreto. The rains began on December 26, 2023 and have been continuing since, affecting residential areas. Families were seen trying to rescue their belongings from the floodwaters. Peru's National Meteorology and Hydrology Service warned that Loreto area is on red alert due to the possible further flood damage caused by the rains, as are the nearby regions.
It is going to continue, and we are only in December. February and March are coming, which are more rainy months, and this happens in December, a massive flood. This is the second time we have a flood like this. It always floods, but this time it has been too much. That's why we want the population to support these people. They need it now.
Peru's PM mentioned about experiencing a certain percentage of El Nino, the southern anticyclone.
The figure we have so far is that there is a 54% chance that we will have a moderate El Nino. The southern anticyclone, the presence of the southern anticyclone is very important. In the last few weeks, waters have cooled down a little.
The persistent rainfall associated with El Nino results from the warming of the Pacific Ocean waters, disrupting normal atmospheric patterns. As communities grapple with the consequences, understanding and addressing the influence of El Nino on local climates become crucial for effective adaptation strategies.
After weeks of political turmoil and allegations of rigging, the results of Congo's presidential elections were finally announced, with incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi retaining power with a massive 73% votes in his favor. However, the opposition has given a call for protests against the result, which they call a sham.
Tshisekedi Chilombo Félix Antoine, candidat indépendant, avec 13 215 366 voix.
I'm truly in joy, an immense joy. I'm even moved. I am sure that with the second, he will still achieve many things and finish what he had started, many of the other projects. He has created jobs, especially for the young people like me. I was unemployed, but today I work, so he deserves his second term.
Felix Tshisekedi, the incumbent president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, has been re-elected for a second term after getting more than 73% of the vote in this month's presidential election.
I would like to reassure you that this second mandate that you have just granted me will be dedicated to more action to materialize these commitments and to the blossoming of these initiatives with the motivation of never betraying the Congo, of loving our Congo, and the eagerness to see it transformed
thanks to the work of each and every Congolese.
Earlier, a group of Congo's main opposition presidential candidates asked supporters to take to the streets to protest after the release of the provisional results, and also demanded a rerun which the government of Congo had previously rejected.
Appelons la population congolaise.
We declare the following. 1. Categorically reject the sham elections organized by Independent National Elections Commission from December 20 to 26, 2023 and its results at all levels. 2. Demand the organization of real elections by an effectively independent CENI at a date to be agreed upon by the preceding parties.
This happened due to delays during election that led to an extension of voting, which compromised the credibility of the votes.
We have been here to vote since 5 o'clock this morning. But the serious thing is that there were no voting machines. The voting machines only arrived after 10 a.m. They themselves had told us that to vote we would have to check our name on the walls. But for me, for example, this voter card was signed by the headmaster of this school. But so far I haven't been able to vote. It's 11:21 a.m. and no one has gone to vote yet.
Logistical setbacks, an election day overrun, and an opaque vote count have fueled a dispute that threatens to further destabilize a country roughly the size of Western Europe and the world's top producer of cobalt and other prized industrial commodities.
And a good news for the Global South in the space domain, as India's space agency ISRO has launched its first satellite to study black holes and has announced ambitious plans for 2024 that include gearing up for its first crewed mission to space. The country's ExpoSat satellite launched on Monday aboard ISRO's PSLV rocket, making India the only second nation to study black holes and other celestial objects using an orbiting observatory.
Talk about reaching for the stars. On day 1 of 2024, the Indian Space Research Organization put into orbit the country's first satellite to study X-rays polarization. It was a textbook launch and execution, achieving the desired low Earth orbit.
The orbit that has been accomplished, which is available through various routes, it shows excellent orbit, and the deviations from the targeted orbit is hardly just 3 kilometers in circular orbit of 650 kilometer, and inclination is 001 degree, which is one of the very excellent orbital condition. And yet another announcement is the solar panel of the satellite also has been deployed successfully.
The rocket was the first polar satellite launch vehicle, C-58. This is India's first dedicated polarimetry mission to study various dynamics of bright astronomical X-ray sources in extreme conditions. The ExpoSat mission has placed 2 scientific payloads into a low Earth orbit. The Polix polarimeter was developed by Raman Research Institute, Bengaluru, in collaboration with UR Rao Satellite Center. It's expected to observe about 40 bright astronomical sources of different categories during a planned lifetime of 5 years. Expect X-ray spectroscopy and timing payload can provide quick time good spectroscopic resolution in soft X-rays. Expect is expected to monitor spectral state changes in continuum emission, changes in their line flux and profile over the long term. It would observe X-ray pulsars, black hole binaries, and low magnetic field neutron stars.
See, layman also nowadays knows black hole. Huh? So
what is inside that?
I also don't know. Mystery. See, the problem is that even scientists also don't know black hole. We know theoretically there is something called black hole. Every star ultimately will die and become either a pulsar or a neutron star or a black hole. So we know today. And great scientist called Chandrasekhar, Subramanian Chandrasekhar has theoretically found out all of this many years back. After that, there has been a lot of experiments to understand and measure black holes. There has been further theories. Black holes will not remain always eating and big. It will also die one day. There is another theory, which again came from various other findings, recent findings. So there is a lot of interest on black holes. It speaks about the universe and its creation, its evolution, change, etc.
The successful soft landing of Chandrayaan-3 on the moon's south pole positioned India as a major space power. On August 23, the Vikram lander had made a historic touchdown on the moon, with the Pragyan rover then exploring the uncharted lunar south pole.
And this year we are expecting 2 more such test flights of the test vehicle, followed by the unmanned missions of the Gaganyaan program, and many more tests and experiments, which will be in very large numbers, which will not be coordinated from this control center. Similarly, we are going to have missions of PSLV, GSLV, as well as SSLV in the coming year, this year as well.
Somnath said that the Aditya L1 is going to reach its L1 point on January 6 at 4 p.m. He said the final maneuver is being done to keep it in the Langrang point. Aditya L1 is the first Indian mission dedicated to observe the sun. Among India's forthcoming goals are the Gaganyaan mission for human spaceflight, the establishment of a space station called Bharatiya Antariksh Station by 2035, and a manned mission to the moon by 2040.
This is all we have for you in this edition of Voice of the Global South. Let us know your thoughts on the show. You can also connect with us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching our special program. News and updates continue on DD India. Keep watching.